Time is 8:04, just about p.m. here on Monday, October 17th. The NBA season starts tomorrow, but before we get into that, I want to quickly give my obituary to the Cleveland Browns 2022-2023 season. It's over. Browns fans, it is fucking over. The Browns are a bad football team this year, and it's hard to say that because it feels like for the first time in a long time, they're more talented than they've ever been, but now they just kind of suck, which is really hard to watch. Nick Chubb is perhaps an all-time running back, at least in the Browns franchise, which is pretty. There's some very, very high company in that namesake, but we're wasting his career. At this point, Nick Chubb is like arguably the best running back in the league, if not the best, and we're wasting his career. It's very sad to watch Jacoby Brissett have to throw the football 30 times on a Sunday. That is probably the most disheartening thing I've had to do all week. And it's hard to say it, but it's over. Because I don't want to put my faith in Deshaun Watson, a guy with a very morally questionable track record. But enough about the Browns. We know it's over. I want to kick it to my friends who are Niners faithful. I'm sure they got something to say after this loss this weekend. We'll kick it to you, Lucas. Lucas, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, this game I think was a very classic early season, or getting towards mid-season Niner game where, the Niners are very injured, as always we are, at this point. So the defense was not playing as well as it could have. But we had an all-time Jimmy G performance, just Jimmy G'ing it up. He actually played all right in the first half. I was, pretty happy with him. And then, he made those two plays down the field, but, the receivers just, completely dropped them. 35-yard passes. But then, obviously in the last drive of the game, Jimmy G only knows how to throw the ball -2 yards and then let Deebo Samuel or George Kittle run the ball for 6 yards. So we took 8 minutes off the clock and had no chance after that. But I think we're in a better spot for this season than the Cleveland Browns. At least with Jimmy G, the girls want to have sex with him. I think we all know that.
Are you saying that girls don't want to have sex with Jacoby Brissett?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm implying something else. But I'm sure there's girls that want to hook up with Jacoby Brissett. Yeah.
Confirmed. Plenty of women would swipe right on Jacoby Brissett. Marvin, what about you? What are your takeaway from the Falcons-Niners game?
Everyone on the Niners offense, except for Jimmy G, sold that game today. I think Jimmy G actually played really well. I think this is one of his best games all season. He had one interception that was in garbage time. Garbage end of the half. Just chuck it up. And then one that was about a 50-50 ball with Deebo Samuel that got tipped and intercepted. And when you look at the game, Jimmy G threw about 4 deep balls that should have been caught. And I think maybe one of them did, and that was a penalty, and it got called back. Jimmy G played really well. I'm going to die on that hill. And then just the wide receivers and the tight ends couldn't seem to catch the ball today. And
I don't know, man. Okay, because Jimmy G, it's if you're grading him on a Jimmy G scale, I agree this is a good game. But if you're talking about, imagine if Aaron Rodgers had a game like this. You'd be like, damn, Aaron Rodgers sucks, still, because I guess those deep balls that he did throw got it wasn't really his fault that he didn't get those passes, but if you actually look at his deep percentage in the game, it wasn't good. And the last drive of the game I think is obviously the most important, or our last drive of the game, where it's you're supposed to be a game manager too, understand the game. He did exactly what he shouldn't have done. And in the last play, where we're going for it on fourth, he just throws it in, he has no chance to catch the ball. It's 3 feet in front of him. So, I don't know, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just Jimmy G. That's just what he does. That reminds me of, last year's NFC Championship game, where it's we had it, and then Jimmy G'd all over the place, and we just
29 for 41 against the Falcons, 296 yards, 2 picks, 2 touchdowns, 36.3 quarterback rating. I don't know.
36.3?
Yeah, Marvin.
That's ass.
With those stats in mind, how do you consider this to be his best performance of the season in the 14-28 loss against?
It actually still might be his best.
Watch the film. Watch the film. He played really well. He's making good decisions. He got really hampered by the fumble that immediately put them down 14 points, which they came back from. And then the defense let them down again. 2 touchdown lead to come back from is hard to do for the 49ers. They don't have the wide receivers for it. They don't have the quarterback for it.
I'm not going to say, though, that this isn't his best game. It might be his best game. I guess Carolina, but that, it's Carolina. Not really a competition there. But, I don't know, man. Every game that he plays, I just fall a little bit farther away from him. But I think it's okay. Again, our defense is, totally beat up. Once we get the defense back, he is the type that, hey, you run that drive, that 8-minute drive, 16-play drive at the end of the game, and we're winning by 3. That's amazing. Great job. Way to eat the clock. That's what we have to do in that situation.
I look at this Jimmy G thing you had this girlfriend for a while, and she was great, and things were fantastic. Things were moving in the right direction. But then, as relationships happen, sometimes there's disappointment. Sometimes there's some letdowns. And you decide, maybe we should just start exploring our options. And you find this nice, cute girl, and maybe it's time for things to change. Are you okay? It's time for things to change.
Are you okay, Anton?
But then,
all of a sudden, she has
your plans. Hold on. Your plans fall through with the second girl, and you'd already broken up with the first. But now you're like, well, maybe we should just get back together. That's the Jimmy G thing for me. Jimmy G is your OG girlfriend, and Trey Lance was the girl that you dumped your OG girlfriend for, and now it's just a huge messy situation. It's this really long slow motion breakup between them. It's so bizarre that Jimmy Garoppolo, who was once heralded as some underdog hero, porn star Jimmy, as Lucas alluded to earlier, is now officially on the tier of a Baker Mayfield, a Sam Darnold, the scrubs of the league.
Wait, no.
Isn't that crazy?
What's going on?
We're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep things moving here. And we're gonna head to the NBA forecast. The season starts tomorrow, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and there's a lot of things that are playing in this season, a lot of storylines heading in. I want to talk quickly about some teams that we should keep our eye on this season. I'm going to kick it to you first, Marvin. Marvin, who's a team that you feel like people should turn the game on when they're playing?
2 teams in mind. The Timberwolves, I'm really interested to see how Rudy Gobert impacts their defense. And I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, even without Chet Holmgren, I think they're a very interesting team. They have a lot of potential. I think they might shock some people with their record this year.
Why the Thunder? Interesting pick.
The Thunder, I do believe so. They're full of young talent, and I think they draft very well.
Do you think Shai Gilgeous will be an All-Star this year?
Oh.
I think if they're smart, he's not going to play this year.
But how many times this is a real thing. How many times can you go to the best player on the team and say year after year, we're going to try to think in the future sense, and we're not going to let you play this year. We're going to sit you down, you're going to rest or whatever. You're still going to get paid, right? But there's still NBA players. There's still professional athletes who love the game. They want to play, right? They didn't just make it all this way just to sit down. Do you think Shai Gilgeous, does he play with a little more gusto this year because he's thinking, maybe people forgot about how good I was? Marvin, you.
Totally possible. And there's that sense of pride that I think being a professional athlete has with your craft. And I don't think that these young players are fully going to buy into the tank process to get that number 1 pick. And so that's why I think they're going to do slightly better than what a lot of people think this year. And it'll be interesting to watch.
Wembanyama is truly a fascinating prospect. Someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone made a report that with Wembanyama on the team, your franchise...
That's just not how you pronounce his name.
How do you pronounce it?
It's Wembanyama.
Wembanyama, whatever. Wembanyama, when he's on your team, Wembanyama at
I think
500
it's
million.
Wembanyama.
Wembanyama.
I could be getting that wrong too, but I think I'm
Okay, you know what? I'm not taking any more advice from
Bang
Lucas.
him up.
All right, here we go.
Bang your
Wembanyama.
mom.
Wembanyama. I like Wembanyama for two reasons, okay? He's incredibly fluid. When you watch him play, he looks like a guard who just happens to be 7 feet tall. His defensive acumen is phenomenal. Like, his shot blocking instincts are totally there. And he has the size and the speed and the quickness to, like, cover the rim at a pretty elite level. The only question, of course, is injuries. But I wanted to ask you, Lucas, where do you see Wembanyama ending up in the NBA after this season? And
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to get rid of this take, because I've had this take boiling up. Right. The team that I know for a fact he's not going to play for is the Sacramento Kings. All right. Because the Sacramento Kings, they are the dumbest team probably in basketball. Right. They made the stupidest trade last year. They decided to go get Domantas Sabonis. I think he's got maybe 2 more years on his contract. And they got rid of Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield for him, putting them in a prime position this year to screw themselves out of the Wembanyama sweepstakes. So they're probably I will bet my life on the fact that this is the year that the Sacramento Kings are making the playoffs. They are going to get into the play-in tournament and win some games, just like they absolutely should not be doing right now. And then they're going to screw themselves. But who do I think they're actually going to go to? I think that the best odds, the worst team in the league this year is probably the San Antonio Spurs. If you just look on paper, their best player, I don't even know. Like, I think they have. They don't have Lonnie Walker anymore. I don't even know.
Exactly.
Like,
You can't name anyone on the team. Here's my thing. If this was like a fantasy basketball situation, so you can like 2K could build your own team. Marvin, who would you pair alongside Wembanyama to create your team of the future for the next 10 years?
Zion Williamson.
Zion
Williamson.
That actually is a crazy bruiser pick, because if you look at Wembanyama, he is a good shooter too, which is I think the most frightening aspect of it, because no one, maybe Giannis, that's about it, KD perhaps could really disrupt that shot. I mean, he is 7'4", 7'5", and man, he is up there, and it looks even more fluid than you would expect from someone his age. We're gonna keep things moving here. And speaking of the Western Conference, we were just talking about the Spurs and the Thunder. I think an interesting team to watch out for this year is the Clippers. I want to rewind. We were talking about Shai Gilgeous a while ago. Shai Gilgeous was low-key a throw-in for the Clippers to get Paul George, because they knew if they got Paul George on their team, Kawhi Leonard would sign. And that sort of set the landscape for the next few years in terms of free agency of how do you get stars to your team? What is the price tag, right? And then a few years later, we see Anthony Davis, of course, land in Los Angeles. But here's the thing for me. Year after year after year, the Clippers come into the season with unbelievably lofty expectations, and year after year they fail. If you rewind, the only thing they've done is a 3-1 early playoff exit. They blew a 3-1 lead with Doc Rivers in the bubble, and they haven't been as far since. That is a huge disappointment if you're the Los Angeles Clippers. And if there is any time to do it, it is this year. Because let's be honest, if you traded your entire future to get 2 guys, and all they did was strengthen the curse around your franchise, you'd be fucking pissed. So I'm looking at Kawhi. I'm looking at Paul George. This is the year they got to do it. Lucas, what's your take on the Clippers this year?
I really like the Clippers this year. I think that they, last year, being like a fringe play-in team, and then adding their 2 best players back, I think they're one of the deepest teams in basketball. You got Norman Powell, Robert Covington, you got Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson,
Wall?
Ivica Zubac.
Forgot
John
about Wall. Wall's like
I'm
the
not
10th
I'm not
person
forgetting
on this
about
list.
No. I'm not forgetting about John Wall, because John Wall is my comeback player of the year, and I think that he is, and I think it could potentially be a big three situation with them. The way that we've seen players come back from like really serious injuries, I, I'm not going to put it past John Wall to do the same. I don't think he's going to be as good as John Wall was, of course not. But like, if he's in a playmaking position with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard around him, I think he's going to thrive. So I really think they're a great team top to bottom, offensively and defensively. And I also think that Kawhi Leonard is the perfect player to have on your team if you're trying to make a deep playoff run. So I fully see them as contenders and a top seed in the West.
Marvin?
I totally agree with Lucas's Kawhi take. His combination of defensive ability, size, and ability to control the pace of the game is critical. It's critical to being able to make a deep playoff run and beat teams 4 out of 7 times repeatedly. And the Clippers, they have a really good team this year. They're stacked. And the addition of John Wall does make them a very exciting watch. Mostly just to see how well he plays. No one's seen him play for 2+ years. How is he going to be? I think that's going to be a major storyline that dominates during the season.
When they first traded for Paul George and teamed him up with Kawhi, the whole thought was, what would the Western Conference Finals be? A 7-game standoff in Staples Center. But right now, if there was a playoff series between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Clippers, I would take the Clippers in 4. I don't know about you guys, but they definitely have something to play for this year, and I think that's definitely something to watch. One other team in the West before we move to the Eastern Conference, I am really, really intrigued by the Denver Nuggets. Hold on, before I keep going, Lucas, I didn't come to you.
Okay.
Give me a team to watch.
Team to watch in the West, or no, just team to watch.
Anything good.
I was thinking about this earlier. I was gonna say the Denver Nuggets. It looks like we're gonna talk about them anyway. It's all good. My team to watch in the West is the Phoenix Suns. I think that with all of the controversy that happened, we're talking about DeAndre Ayton, first of all. Then you got Robert Sarver. You got Jay Crowder requesting a trade. I don't know how that's going to affect this team coming off of a terrible loss, Game 7 against the Mavericks.
I think the worst loss. The worst Game 7
Actually,
loss.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think some people are really writing them off. Some people are still believing in them. I'm kind of in that idea that like they're not going to be the number 1 seed, but they're going to do what they need to do to get in the playoffs. I think that Chris Paul is willing to do that. Kind of towards the end of the season, if they need to be a 3 seed, they need to win 20 out of 25 games. I think that they're still a team that can do that. But I don't think they're as good as they were last year, and I think that watching them, especially at the beginning of the season, going to be really interesting how DeAndre Ayton feels and plays.
The Suns are definitely a team to watch because I felt like last year they could have been in the finals, but
Totally.
It took a pretty epic collapse, and a collapse that, some teams just don't come back from something like this, right? Not every team has the mental capacity or the mental strength and fortitude to push through such a disappointment, especially in your home stadium. I am very intrigued by the Suns. Thank you, Lucas. But we're talking about the Denver Nuggets real quick before we move on. The Denver Nuggets are such an interesting team to me because Nikola Jokic, who for all intents and purposes is a top 3 player in the NBA, truthfully is at this point, right? Nikola Jokic last year won his 2nd MVP, stealing it away from Joel Embiid, right? They often, people like giving it back-to-back. Like Giannis didn't get back-to-back. Or did he get back-to-back? I can't remember. No, I don't think Giannis got back-to-back. But Jokic getting back-to-back is an incredible feat without his top 2 shot creators on his team. And now they're coming back. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are back on the team. And Nikola Jokic, in a decently competitive West last year, was able to take his team to the 6th seed, which now with the addition of the play-in is the top 6 seeds are the seeds you want. It's no longer 1 through 8. It's 1 through 6 now. And 7, 8, 9, 10 are just a dogfight at the end of the season. But Nikola Jokic, is he in position to possibly win back-to-back-to-back? The first player since Bird did it, I think in the 80s. But I want to talk about Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Marvin, what do you think we're going to see from Jamal Murray this year?
I think we're going to continue to see what we've always seen, which is not a superstar, but a very solid role player in Jamal Murray.
Role
Um,
player.
a very solid, very good role player. I don't even think he's going to have the ball enough to really make himself a superstar.
Serious? Okay.
Because, yeah, with Jokic being the ball dominant big that he is, the center of their offense, I think Jamal Murray will be relegated to second option. Um, and we're not going to see the same kind of production that he had in the bubble. I think that was just a fluke. I think it was unsustainable, and I don't think he's quite at that level consistently.
Yeah, I agree with that. That the bubble, like, he's had the benefit of the doubt, given that after the bubble, he's really had there's no sample of Jamal Murray post bubble, and we're all still remembering Jamal Murray that was dropping 50 a game against Donovan Mitchell, which was absolutely insane.
That was the best playoff series to watch.
Honestly, amazing. Like maybe my favorite I've ever seen. So much fun. But he's coming off of a serious injury again. Nikola Jokic is a ball dominant big. He is in the games that they've played without Murray and Porter, he is everything. He's everything to that team. So yeah, I agree. He's going to be in a secondary position. I still see him getting north of 15 points a game, but I don't think we're going to see. Actually, I'll say more than 15, north of 17 points a game. But I don't think we're going to see a 25 point per game Jamal Murray.
One thing I look at with the Western Conference is that I think the clear team to come out of the conference by May, June is most likely the Warriors. I'm going to be honest. The Warriors are just a stacked team that had this really quietly powerful reload over the offseason. They just extended Poole. Honestly, as much turmoil and disruption as the media wants to present the Draymond Green incident, I'll be honest, these are professional athletes. I'm sure stuff like this happens all the time. They're going to move on. Draymond still is the emotional leader, but I will be honest, it is kind of like, you are the leader of the team. You're supposed to be bigger than everyone else, not like physically, but just in a, maturity, emotional levelness standpoint. And throughout his tenure with the Warriors, he's kind of been a little volatile at times, and perhaps this was like the first reemergence of the Draymond that maybe the Warriors wish they didn't have. But the Warriors are still a great team, but like all great teams in the NBA, they know that it really only matters when it comes to playoff time. So they might just coast. They might just be like, we just want everyone healthy by the end of the season. We just need to be in the playoffs. And with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who's now coming back a year after the injury, I think he's gonna have a pretty good season. Definitely not worth the $40 million contract he's on, but still, it's gonna be Klay Thompson. He's gonna put up good shots. He's gonna hit transition threes to make the crowd go wild. He's gonna put butts in the seats. That's what you want from a player like Klay Thompson. I look at the Nuggets and I think maybe they could be the first seed in the West. It's very possible. The West is a very, top-heavy team. Sorry, top-heavy conference. Where a lot of teams like the Spurs and the Thunder, teams like that where you can just feast on them if you're a top-tier team. But we're going to move to the Eastern Conference and go into our next section called Sleepers and Dreamers. I think there's a lot of teams in the NBA that are in this like limbo stage. Teams that made moves over the offseason that really try to put themselves in contention. And then there are teams like the New York Knicks, we're going to talk about in just a second, that have kind of made like lateral moves or like very slight increases in their potential to win an NBA championship. Lucas, what is your take on the Knicks this year? Do you like the Jalen Brunson move?
I do like the Jalen Brunson move in that I just think that getting Jalen Brunson makes them a better team. I think that they've overpaid him. Although New York, they're a team they have a ton of money and they can spend to go over the cap. But ideally, it would have been a completely different situation from a few years ago for the Knicks. I think that the only real hit that they've had is RJ Barrett. And he's already on a big contract extension with them. So, they've kind of capped their potential for a while. This year, I see some new some new players in the East, like the Cavs are going to be legit this year. I think that the Hawks are going to be better with DeJounte Murray. And then obviously we have the top guys. So the Knicks right now are pretty solid play-in team. I think if they get lucky, they should go to the lottery. Again, this is not a team that is going to win a championship. I don't think for the next 5 years. Like I don't see any path to them, being a great team. Your best player is Julius Randle. So yeah, I think the best case scenario for them is to have a decent season and then lose in the play-in tournament and get a high draft pick.
Yeah, the Knicks, when they had their, playoff success as you want to call it, which is getting to the playoffs and winning one game at home against Trae Young. The playoff success, again in quotes, was in large part to Julius Randle's perhaps really surprising ascension that season. Marvin, do you think we're going to get that from Julius Randle again? Like, what do you think we're going to see from Julius Randle? Is he going to be another all-star or fringe all-NBA player?
Not at all. Julius Randle, his prime is past him. He's washed. He's probably going to average 22 points per game. I think if the Knicks were smart, they would trade him for picks and load up on young talent and build a timeline that aligns with RJ Barrett's development to have a contending team in maybe 7 to 8 years.
The Knicks are such a sorry franchise. They have a terrible owner. Everyone say hello to Lucas's dog.
This is
Lucas,
Z.
what's Z?
Z. Short
Well, if only Z could run an NBA franchise, because maybe Z could actually run the Knicks better than James Dolan and Leon Rose.
Smarter.
I think the problem here is at this point, Knicks fans are so deep in the Kool-Aid. They're like, their shirt is red and their mouth is covered in dried Kool-Aid, that they're now convincing themselves that actually it was a good thing they didn't trade for Donovan Mitchell this offseason. That's a pretty sorry take for me. You're currently not in any position to compete at a serious level, but outside of major injuries and a huge leaps from RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, who asked for another trade, by the way. Gonna get, I guess Derrick Rose is coming back, guys. Wow, it's gonna be awesome. If I'm the Knicks, I got a lot to think about because the future is looking pretty dim, and we're gonna move to another team, which I'm gonna classify the Knicks as a dreamer. They're a team that no, they're better than they're like dreaming about what life could have been like if Julius Randle had shot 38 to 40% from three last year. I digress. Moving on to a sleeper team. My sleeper team this year is the Brooklyn Nets because people forgot. I think people are forgetting, right, how good the Nets were before all this Kyrie's not getting vaccinated thing and KD wanting a trade and talking to, Sean Marks and everything. The Nets are still a good team to me. And I think with Ben Simmons, he's in a position that, he's not asked to be an offensive creator by any means. He's not taking shots away from guys like KD or Kyrie. I think that the Nets they're definitely going to be like a top 5 seed in the East. And I think people are kind of discounting them for the crazy offseason they had. Marvin, I'm going to kick it to you first. Marvin, what do you think we're going to see from the Nets this year?
I agree with you. The Nets are going to be, I think, a little bit better than what people will think that they will be based on last season's performance. I see them falling no further than 4th seed in the East. And I think they're going to have a big motivation and a big chip on their shoulder to do well in the playoffs. And I think that they're going to make a deep playoff run as well.
You said top 4. Who's top 4 in the East?
Top 4. The Nets, the Bucks.
Okay, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, like no particular order.
Oh, no particular order.
Okay.
I think at that point. Bucks, the Nets, the Heat, and the Celtics. The obvious.
The Heat.
I agree with the Heat. Heat is a very good team. I think that they also kept the core, and they're like, Jimmy Butler, man, he's gonna get them to the 4 seed. But sleeping on the Sixers, bro.
No, that's what I'm saying. Listen, Jimmy Butler is a god in the playoffs, but the regular season is not the playoffs. When it's something to play for, Jimmy Butler really turns it on. We're forgetting about the Sixers.
You need a top 4 seed. I think that a top 4 seed is something that it's like you're not going to win a championship. I guess they were the 5 seed right when they made it to the finals in the bubble.
Yeah,
but
that's bubble.
You don't win a championship if you're not a top 4 seed. And I think Jimmy Butler understands that. So it's like, they're a team that can win games when they need to win them. So I definitely in my top 4 also includes the Heat, but it doesn't include the Nets.
I'm not sure. You got teams like the Cavs and the Hawks and the Raptors who are going to siphon some of those wins that the Heat might have gotten the year prior. I mean, the Heat, like the Knicks, didn't really make any moves that are going to shock me, wow me. Maybe besides giving Tyler Hero a lot more money than I think he's worth.
Well, but you got Tyler Hero taking another step. He's probably going to be starting this year. I think they announced that he's going to be starting this year, I think that's good for the franchise. Bam Adebayo, he's gonna get better. I think he's 26 now. I think that Kyle Lowry, he's probably getting a little worse. That's fine. And Jimmy Butler, like we all know Jimmy Butler. I don't know. I just think that a team that has been together for so long kind of knows how to just win games consistently. Like that's the type of team that's like, at least they have a very high floor in my mind. So we got a new team in the Cavs. It's like we don't know what they're gonna be. We don't know how the Nets are gonna be with this new look. Like I think the Heat, they'll be up there, bro. They'll be up there. Oh God.
The reason why I'm not holding the Heat is this, okay? The Heat don't seem to have the tools you want to compete against a team like the Hawks. I don't think they do. I don't think they have enough offense, and I don't think you're going to get all of that from Tyler Hero. I don't think so. I really don't think so. It's going to be another one.
Don't have the tools to compete against the Hawks?
I don't think so. I'm just not convinced.
The Heat are going to be way better than the Hawks this year.
All right, well, we'll put some money on that one later. But the Heat are definitely a team that I'm not sure is going to repeat the same success. Everyone's always saying, if you're a fan of the Heat, you're like, oh, we'll be back next year, and we'll beat the Celtics. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's going to happen. But we're going to move on to the last segment of the show, which is Last Chance U blank. Play on words on Last Chance U, the famous or very popular show on Netflix, which covers community colleges and their athletes trying to make it to big-time programs. But I repurpose it to Last Chance U, YOU, as a way to make the segment about people who have a last chance this season. And we'll kick things off very quickly with Last Chance U, Mr. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, in the last few seasons, hasn't played more than 50 games. And I think last 4 seasons, which is really, really shocking. And now he's in a quote-unquote contract year. He picked up his option this offseason. But here's the problem. We have never seen Kyrie play well when it's a contract season. Kick it back to 2019 with the Celtics. That was a fucking disaster, and he played like garbage in the playoffs against the Bucks. Kyrie Irving, I think this is his last chance to prove it, right? I mean, he didn't get vaccinated. He took a stance that some agreed with, some didn't. I didn't, because his take is like, I think I know more than doctors. That's basically his whole point, because he does his own research. But I think if I'm Kyrie, this is the last time to prove it. I don't know if another team's going to pick up my contract if they don't even know I'm going to play the whole season. Lucas, where do you think Kyrie... Is Kyrie going to be an all-star this year? Really? Is he?
Oof. That's the real question. I agree with the last chance part about Kyrie. It's like, what he needs to show this year is that he can play more than 55 games. I don't think it's necessarily going to come down to he needs to average 25 points, although I feel like he just will. He's that good of a player. It's just, at this point, it's like his off-the-court stuff has kind of outweighed any on-the-court issues that you would see from him. So I think if he does decide that he's going to play the whole season, obviously being post-COVID is going to really help him out. But I trust in Kyrie. I think this year, yes, if I had to bet, I'm going to say yes, he is going to be an all-star. Yes, he is going to play the amount of games that he needs to play for his career to kind of straighten itself out. And I think he's going to be able to re-sign a fat contract at the end of this. So I'm Team Kyrie.
Marvin?
You know what? Are we talking about Kyrie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyrie is going. I think he's gonna do well. I think he knows how serious this season is for his career. And despite all what I think media would lead you to believe, I do think he cares about his basketball career still, and I think he's going to have a lot to prove this year. And I think he'll step up to the challenge as he always has. Anton, you
Kyrie's
good?
kind of no, but I have hiccups, bro. It's killing me. Oh my god. But anyway, Kyrie has been riding the 2016 NBA Final success wave for about, oh my god, 6 years now? Jeez. There's just too many question marks with him. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm getting hiccups in the middle of the show. It's killing me. All right.
Chug some water. Chug some water.
Bro, I've been drinking water, trust. All right. So, fuck, I totally lost my train of thought. But okay, everybody, sorry. Another last chance team this year, the Philadelphia 76ers. It was sad. It was tough. It resulted in a loss of Ben Simmons when we last saw them, really have a strong team and then fall apart in the playoffs. The year before that, they had Jimmy Butler, decided to let him go in favor of Tobias Harris, as some media outlets report. This year, does James Harden, with his weight loss, with his Rico Hines runs, is James Harden gonna be able to take the Sixers over the hump? Marvin, we'll start with you.
No, James Harden is so washed. He is way past the prime. He looks slow, he looks old, and he looks unreliable. And I think his with Joel Embiid, it's not going to work out. I think there's going to be some drama within that locker room. I think they're going to have a big identity crisis, and they're going to need to know how to operate the offense. Is it going to be through James Harden, or is it going to be through Joel Embiid? And I think when the ball is not in James Harden's hands, his effectiveness is way diminished.
And are the Sixers even, going to be healthy the whole year? This is a team like James Harden and Joel Embiid are your two best players. These guys don't stay healthy. I think when they're all healthy, they can be pretty good. And, I think Joel Embiid is probably going to try to win MVP this year. But James Harden, man, I don't, what's his over-under on games? I got like 53? 50?
To play?
To play this year,
I say maybe he plays like 55. He might just get to 55, I think the problem with James Harden is that it's not about the regular season. It's always been about the playoffs. It's always been about, will James Harden, the James Harden we see for 82 games or 55 or whatever, are we going to see him actually be that James Harden in the playoffs? And it always just seems like he's just shrinking away in the moment. I like to think of it like Peyton Pritchard. If you watch him in the finals last year, he has this expression on his face. Like he looks like a mouse that got away with the cheese after like swiping it from the mouse trap. You know what I'm saying? Like he always looks like he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here. It's like, oh my God, I'm still here. I'm not, someone didn't kill me yet. That's, I think, what James Harden feels like on the inside. He doesn't show it behind the beard. The beard hides his real expression, but inside, James Harden becomes Peyton Pritchard during the playoffs. That's how I think of it. James Harden, I don't know if this is his last chance technically, because I feel like people have come to a consensus that, James Harden isn't the James Harden we know anymore. That's just how it is. But he's still pretty good. I mean, he was listed as a top 11 NBA player by ESPN's list. Yeah, James Harden is like number 11, just outside the top 10. Yeah, seriously.
No way. That's wild.
James Harden, I think, still has, some pretty nifty playmaking tools. He's undeniably still a pretty solid shooter, and he can definitely make shots if he needs it. He can definitely bail you out of some possessions when your offense just can't get a shot off. But I think I want to talk about Joel Embiid for just a little bit longer. Joel Embiid, even from like the moment he came to the NBA, problems with injuries, right? He had a foot injury that sidelined him for a whole year. He comes back, he's great, but then he's still glass cannon. He just can't stay healthy for long enough. And last season felt like the first season in a long time where Joel Embiid was there for a lot of the season. And can I really blame his injury and his injury proneness on him getting elbowed in the face? Is that something I can really blame Joel Embiid for? And the answer is yes. You totally can. You totally can. Because this is just how it is with him. Joel Embiid is just going to get hurt. and he's going to get hurt at the worst, at the weirdest time. Lucas, you mentioned he's going to go for MVP. Do you think he's actually going to win it, though? Like, let's be real. Do you actually think he's going to win it?
This year I think that people are ready to give the MVP to Luka, and he is in a perfect spot with a shit-ass team around him. If they, like, end up being, like, a top 5 seed, even, in the West, like, people want to give this MVP to Luka. But, last year, I just think last year was his year. It's like he did everything that he could have done to win MVP last year, but then just at the end of the season didn't play enough, So I don't think he's going to win MVP this year. I think I think Ja Morant probably has a better chance this year. They're going to be really good. And like Marvin was saying, it's like that team might not end up being a 5 seed. So you don't take a team or being a 4 seed. You don't take a team that had an MVP caliber player last year that got worse and then give that team's best player MVP.
Marvin, Lucas brings up an interesting point about where the Sixers might end up in the standings. Do you think if Joel Embiid doesn't win an NBA championship this year, that he'll just be done? Like, do you think that, like, in Joel Embiid's mind, he's thinking, I gotta get to the top 4 seeds to get home, to have home court advantage for at least the first round, to try to really make a real championship push, because I don't know how many seasons I have left in me. So do you think Joel Embiid, like, is this his last year to win a championship?
How old is Joel Embiid?
I think he's 29.
He's like sneaky young,
He's 20. He's 28. He's 28. He's got quite a few. I think he's got quite a few years left of basketball in him. I think at least 6 years of prime basketball. And I think it would be interesting to see if the Sixers do not do well this season. If they don't do well this season, how is that going to impact his future with Philly? And I think it just takes one really disappointing season to make him consider going to another team.
All right, I gotta do it because they're my team, but we gotta talk about the Cavs just very quickly before we log off for tonight. I watched the Cavs this offseason. They look really good. They look really good in the preseason. It already looks kind of like Garland and Mitchell kind of know how to play together. There doesn't seem to be any clunkiness or, the offense flows really well, and it looks a lot better than it did because I think people don't realize that Darius Garland's actually a pass-first point guard. I watched the play-in games, and it didn't look like Darius Garland was asserting himself offensively like a player that, maybe prime IT would have done it. Like Isaiah Thomas of the Celtics, not Detroit bad boy Pistons Isaiah Thomas. But I don't know why I brought him up of all people. But Darius Garland is a pass-first guy. He's definitely going to be a distributor. I think he might average 21 and 12 assists, honestly. I think a lot of the team's success relies on how much does Evan Mobley improve from last year. Lucas, kicking it to you. Where do you think the Cavs end up this season?
That's a really good question. I think that their ceiling is legitimately a 1 seed, given that they have 1 through 5. Everyone's great. You have a great backcourt. You have a great front court. You have young players who are coming into their prime. You have good defense. You got Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, who's like a great defensive threat, and now an undeniably good offense and depth too. Like you're looking at Kevin Love, who is a contender for 6th man of the year. So like if you're checking off the boxes, you're like, check. This team has everything. So I really, really like the way that they're built on paper. But then again, kind of like what I was saying about the Heat, it takes time for a team to mesh. You can't build a new team and then expect them to win a championship. We saw what happened with Brooklyn. Not talking about this last year. But Donovan Mitchell coming into a new place. We've only seen him with one team this whole time, playing in a very, very specifically built Donovan Mitchell system that also couldn't get very far in the playoffs. So, again, I really see them having a very high ceiling, but then again, they could be a 6 seed. So I'm excited to see how this team does deep into the season. Beginning of the season, they're a very young team. I think they're going to do really well. They're going to play all their heart out and try to win every game to prove something. But when it comes to the end, and it's like, oh, we need to worry about our seeding right now, or it's the first round of the playoffs and we need to buckle in, I don't know how much I trust them yet. But yeah, I think in a few years, very good.
Let's do a quick would you rather. Would you rather 7-game series? Let's see, home court advantages to the Cavs, just for whatever. Bucks, Cavs or Bucks? Marvin.
Bucks
as well. Yeah.
Brooklyn Nets.
It's a great series. I would probably take the Nets, but it'd be fun.
I want to see how the Cavs play. I think with the way, this is tough. I think I would still take the Nets. With Ben Simmons, KD, and Kyrie all playing at their best, and the Cavs playing at their potential best. I think I would take the Nets still.
The Celtics.
Celtics, man, come on.
Yeah, Celtics.
And definitely, I think the wings are just too big. The Sixers.
Defense. Oh man, Sixers is. I think the way that they match up probably favors the Cavs in this. They have the tools to stop Joel Embiid.
I absolutely agree. I think this would be a case where I would take the Cavs. I would feel very confident in the Cavs.
The Heat.
No, I'm taking the Heat, and this is for the exact reason what I was talking about. The Heat have that experience. They know how to win playoff games too. So like the Warriors last year, it's like the Grizzlies might beat up on them in the regular season, but it comes to a playoff series, 6 games, we're done.
Exactly. I think the Heat offense is too well coached, it's too experienced, and their defense is just too strong for Cleveland and their inexperienced team to overcome.
Lastly, the Hawks.
Cavs.
Yeah, Cavs as well.
I think regardless of the way you look at it, the Cavs in all those matchups, it's not going to be like they're just going to lie down, let them, and just lose, right? They're going to put up a fight, right? Even if they lose to the Celtics, it's going to be a tough 6 games. It's going to be a tough 7 games, right, to knock them out. I am really excited about the Cavs this year. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Browns, they're fucking toast. The Browns are toast. I'm just not going to watch any more of the NFL season. I'm giving up. It's officially Cavs season. Hopefully the Guardians can clutch it up tomorrow. Hopefully Stephen Kwan can put it together. But that's going to do it today for the Draw the Line podcast. I am your host, Anton Lee, joined by Lucas Watkins and Marvin Lee. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.